Thumbcoast TV and WGRT bring you St. Clair County at the Mackinac Policy Conference. Sponsored by the Community Foundation of St. Clair County, Michigan Mutual, and Eastern Michigan Bank.
Welcome back to live coverage of the Mackinac Policy Conference. Today I'll be joined by Jamon Alexander, President and CEO of WMCAT. And did I do that right? It was WMCAT.
WMCAT.
Meow,
West
right?
Michigan said meow. Absolutely.
There it
Absolutely.
is. So I saw a very intriguing conference. You were a panelist on it, and we were lucky enough to get you here. So Jamon, before we get into that, can you tell us the organization that you oversee and your title and your role?
Absolutely. So again, Jamon Alexander, President and CEO of West Michigan Center for Arts and Technology, also known as WMCAT. And just at a high level, our vision is really about equitable access to opportunity, and we live that out a few different ways. So we have visual and media arts programming with middle and high school students, and then we have tuition-free adult workforce development. And what brought me here today is our tuition-free program in cybersecurity, which integrates AI into the learning.
Well, and I love that. And we were talking offline. You got your start at the Y, so that's where all this passion and knowledge comes from. But now that I've gotten out that shameless plug, so tell us. It was very interesting, and I think it was dynamic. So you can essentially get young folks or people, regardless of their current employment. And in 7 to 8 months, you've been able to get folks into jobs procuring 6 figures. So what does that mean? What does that look like? We talk about talent development. We talk about workforce readiness, and it seems like you've got your project humming. Tell us about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So really, when we were thinking about this many years ago, we wanted to ensure that people had access to thriving wages, right? Like living wages aren't enough. So we targeted technology as one of the opportunities, one of the tools for us to get into that space. So our model is a couple of things, because we want to reduce the barrier to upskilling, which can be really, really expensive. So it is one, tuition free, right? So people pay nothing out of pocket in order to learn with us.
Philanthropic based grant. How do you?
Great question. So our first primary funder was Kellogg Foundation, right? Kellogg Foundation really took that risk with us to launch this back in 2022, and then through the advocacy and championing of Senator Mark Heisinger, we were able to get $1 million over the course of like 3 years from the state of Michigan. So between those two, and then now some corporate support, because they want to invest, one, in their own specific business needs and the ecosystem. We've been able to raise enough money to sustain this so far over the course of 3 years. Now there's still more work to go, right? Still more work to work.
It never ends.
It never ends. So it's tuition free. A good chunk of it is in VR, where people are sort of building in a virtual reality space. It's holistic supports, because families encounter things along the way, right? Whether that's transportation, rent assistance, navigating public benefits, like all of those sorts of things that can stand in a way of certification or not. And then the other thing I would say, which is super important, is we're supporting adults at leveraging the power of their lived experience to inform and develop their own leadership.
I love that. I want to take you back for a second. Because this is always an interesting thing, and it seems that we miss in kind of the social services field. We miss this. So we've got somebody, we've invested $15,000 in their success.
Yes, sir.
They get close to the finish line, the water pump in their car breaks, and
absolutely,
I can't pay the $500 to get you there. And I'm like, well, we've already put 15 in. If 500 gets you over the finish line, shouldn't we invest in that?
Absolutely.
And so is that
Josh,
the kind of thing? Because I think sometimes we say rent assistance. Oh, well, you're just getting rent. Well, that's not necessarily the case. It's real life things happen. Tires go bad, a tree falls on your house, and your internet goes out. So are those the kind of supports that you're providing in your program?
Yes, sir. Because I forget what the data says, but it's something to the effect of most Americans can't absorb a $400, $500 unanticipated thing. So what we do is, one, we have an emergency fund that people can access, and then we were actually able to leverage some money from the state, and I believe it was the Leo, where we could put money directly in the hands of families when that thing occurred. So to your point, water pump goes out, tire goes flat, my child care fell through, I'm on the verge of perhaps losing my housing because of rent, homelessness, right? So what can we do to not only address the root cause, but respond immediately and do it in a way that preserves dignity, right? We also have an on-site therapist too, because a lot of our adult students tend to be women, head of household, and they're caring for everybody else. right?
Nobody's caring for them.
Nobody's caring for them, right?
Yeah.
So when they show up, we want them to be present and do what you need to do to be present. And if that means you need to step out and process with a therapist, then we want you to do that, right? We want you to do that. If that means we need to increase your public benefits in the short term until you get to where you want to get, then we want to remove the stigma from that as well, so that the focus is on what they set out to do, not what we want for them, but what they set out to do, which is to achieve that like long-term family economic security.
And I think that's really important, because you said it. It's more a good wage. Well, what does a good wage? I think what you're getting at is you're really putting in a program that says not only are you going to make a good wage, but you're going to be able to afford a house. You're going to be able to live in a community that you want to live in, put down roots, invest in it, and grow as a part of that community. Is that correct?
That is correct. Right now, our average wage for people who landed their first time employment is about $50 an hour.
Okay.
Right. So you figure
significant.
That's very significant.
$100,000.
Right. If you're going from $15 an hour or $20, we're getting you above that benefits cliff threshold, which is one of the problems that we set out to address. But
getting people out of poverty permanently.
Absolutely. But the benefits cliff, that's fed policy, that's state policy, that's going to be a slow moving thing. So what can we do right now? Right? And this is what we've identified, and we want to continue to be nimble and grow so that we can ensure more people who've been underrepresented in tech as well have access to this program.
And so what are some of the jobs that, I know we kind of glanced over it, you said tech security, but what other kind of things what other certifications or trainings are you providing?
Yeah, great. So all of it is in cybersecurity. So one is called governance, risk, and compliance. That's more the business side, the auditing, those sorts of things. Requires maybe less technical expertise, but you have to know enough in order to be able to do the thing. And then there's cloud engineering too. Requires a bit of a higher level of technical expertise. So each one of our students will sit for about 3 exams. Of course, we want them to stay local, but they're also portable nationally. So people can get a job in either one of those 2 spaces. This year, as we're learning, we have incorporated AI into it because we recognize that's an emerging technology that's going to be integrated into what nearly everybody is doing, right? So, and we're pointing our AI posture towards the supply chain, right? Because one of the things that we've learned is that hackers are going to start to target company supply chains and essentially hold it ransom. Right? If you're
send everybody's Amazon packages to my house.
Exactly. Or hold them up and say, hey, Amazon, pay me $1 gajillion and I'll release. Right? So we're supporting our adults in using VR and building out these systems and being able to monitor these systems, shape these systems, influence these systems, and know when things are right. You know what I mean?
And one last question before we take off. What has your success rate been? Obviously, you're early in your endeavors, but what does your success rate look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, we're about to launch our 3rd cohort. The 2nd cohort, not ready to report because we're still actively looking for employment. The first cohort, we were at about 70% placement within the first 6 months of graduation.
Nice. So rapidly getting placed with
Yes. But I can tell you, too, of the 4 people that didn't get employment, only 1 was actively looking. Right. The other 3, 1 had a baby and 2 had some other life things that they just weren't quite ready. But there's only 1 person that was actively looking that we haven't been able to place yet. We're still working on that.
That's great results. Well, it's been a pleasure meeting you. And good luck on your endeavors on the island.
Hey, thanks a lot, Josh. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Okay. And thank you for joining us from the Mackinac Policy Conference.
To hear more from this conversation, visit thumbcoast.tv.